Now today we are replacing both the idler and the tensioner bearing. These are really the pulleys, and built inside of them you'll see and find the bearings. Now you can press them out, or you can just replace the entire unit, which is what I did. So let's begin. So first we need to get access to the drive belt, and that lives right underneath this plastic cover. These are just held in by rubber grommets. Okay. That's all. So now we have better access to everything. And right here is the tensioner bearing, and below it is the idler. Now typically when they start to go, these bearings, you may hear a sort of a clackety-clack sound even while the vehicle is just at idle. And if you look at this bearing as the vehicle is running, maybe it starts to wobble. It won't be smooth compared to the other ones. But something else we can do, be very careful when you do this if you do not have a stethoscope. But grab a long screwdriver, place the end on the fastener holding the pulley to the engine, and place your ear on the other end. And you want to hear a nice, smooth, consistent sound. Let me get a longer screwdriver and I'll show you. Nice long screwdriver. Place the end, the tip, on the pulley, right on the fastener, and place your ear on the opposite end. Okay, like this. Now before you remove the drive belt, either take a few pictures or a quick diagram of how the belt is routed in the engine bay. Okay, now you can buy tools that are made specifically to remove drive belts, but there is another way. Now the flip side is using a socket, a ratchet, along with an extension. You need a really long extension because the tensioner is essentially a massive spring and you need a lot of strength. The longer the handle, the better. So this is ready to go. Extension. Now watch. Put a lot of pressure, okay? A lot of strength to move this. I have my whole body behind myself, essentially putting my weight on it, so you don't have to worry about pulling your back or anything like that. And then we can simply remove the drive belt. Okay, now this is a fantastic time to either replace and at the very minimum inspect the drive belt. Look for cracks, missing ridges, teeth in the belt, that sort of thing. So now we have much better access to both the tensioner and the idler bearing. Now the tensioner bearing is not your normal fastener. In other words, it's not your right hand thread fastener. So to remove this, to loosen up this fastener, you have to turn it clockwise as if you were tightening something. So it's opposite threads, okay? So we're going to rotate this clockwise to remove the fastener. So just like before, same socket and same ratchet. Make sure this is now rotating clockwise, and then the extension, okay? Put a lot of force into it. Use your body weight if you have to. You see how it's loosening? There you go. Let me show you another angle. So once again, I simply just placed my entire body weight and just put some strength in it. They can be rather tight. Now be careful when you remove the fastener because there will be a washer. You don't want to drop it. Okay, so there is our tensioner bearing. And then regarding the idler, this is your normal fastener, meaning you're turning it counterclockwise to remove. Now same as before, same socket, ratchet, and extension, okay? So here we go. Make sure it's firmly on there. Put a lot of weight behind it. Now this, see, I have a problem here, and I don't have enough clearance. It's hitting the frame. I may have to remove the tensioner, which is not a big deal, but you may run into this problem. So it does look like in order to remove this bearing, the tensioner has to come off. Now instead of going underneath the vehicle, jacking it up, and looking for these bolt holes, I simply searched for a tensioner regarding this specific vehicle, and that allows me to find the bolt hole pattern. So I can simply see that a fastener lives at the 7 o'clock position, and that saves me a lot of time and makes the job a little bit easier. Now with that last fastener removed, there we go. It's a little bit more work, but really not too bad. So a couple of things before we wrap this up. Number one is make sure you do not lose any parts, meaning take a look at the tensioner here, and on the rear you can see there's a place where the nut, this little nut fits. So if you're removing the part and you drop this in the engine bay, now you're missing something. So just make sure that nothing drops in the engine bay. Grab a flashlight, look all around, and also I have a washer that lives back here, okay? Number two is regarding the bearings. Most local parts stores will have them. I tend to go with the dealer stuff just because I tend to keep my cars, could be at least a decade sometimes. And over time, the factory parts, they're more money, but they tend to last longer than your aftermarket parts, which could be half the cost. But again, it's whatever works for you. And the last thing to note very quickly is these two bearings, although they look incredibly similar, they are not. So do not mix them up. If you take a look at the housing, the housings are different, okay? So make sure you do not mix and match these bearings. They need to go back in the right place. Now the other thing I'm doing is just loosely install the tensioner. See how it's loose? So the main fastener is holding it onto the engine block, but now I can stick that little nut that lives back here into the fastener and tighten this down. Okay, this will hold that bearing in place. That bearing is good, and then I just have that main fastener at the 7 o'clock position. Now when you reinstall both bearings, make sure everything lines up. So in other words, they're not crooked or slanted in any way. They are perfectly straight, and make sure you can spin them, okay? So we are good to go. I'm just going to tighten both of these down. Don't forget, the tensioner is a left-hand thread, so you have to go counterclockwise to tighten it, okay? This could be a little tricky sometimes. You may have to do it a few times to make sure it's on right. Here we go. And I'll double check it one last time. So you just want to double check it because look right there, and the AC compressor, I'm not completely on the pulley. So just double check, but everything else looks okay. Okay, let's start her up. Double check. And everything looks fantastic. Everything's completely smooth. So we are in good shape. As always, thank you for watching.